At first glance, darts seems like a game of quiet focus. No chaos, no drama, just precision, poise, and maybe a polite fist bump at the end. But that's just the surface. Behind the calm stage lights and tidy scoreboards lies a world of tension, trash talk, outbursts, and some of the most unexpected punishments in professional sports. We're talking about players fined thousands for losing their temper, for swearing on live TV, and even for flipping off an entire crowd. From middle fingers to thrown darts, the Darts Regulation Authority doesn't play games when it comes to protecting the image of the sport. And some players have paid a massive price, literally. Stick around, because we're counting down the biggest and most shocking fines in darts history, including one that made headlines around the world and cost a player over $20,000. Let's dive in. Darts has a reputation, one that suggests it's all about control. Players calmly step up to the hockey, calculate their throws, and walk away with a nod or a smirk. From the outside, it looks almost zen-like. But ask any pro, and they'll tell you that calm exterior, it's a lie. Underneath the spotlight is a mental battlefield where pressure builds with every missed double. Tensions don't just simmer, they boil. And when they spill over, the consequences are real. Because the Darts Regulation Authority, or DRA, isn't just there to keep score. They're the ones handing out suspensions, warnings, and fines that can wreck a paycheck or even a career. Over the years, some players have let the moment get the better of them. Outbursts on stage, obscene gestures, or flat-out confrontations. And while fans may laugh or cheer in the moment, the DRA doesn't find it quite so funny. What's the price of losing control in darts? Sometimes it's thousands of pounds. Sometimes it's your reputation. And in rare cases, it's both. Because as you're about to see, the cost of breaking the rules in darts can be absolutely brutal. Colin Lloyd wasn't just another darts player, he was a force. By 2005, he had climbed to the very top of the PDC rankings, with back-to-back titles and the swagger of a man who owned the hockey. His presence was loud. His throws were lethal, and for a while, he was nearly untouchable. But in 2011, everything changed. At the PDC World Darts Championship in Alexandra Palace, Lloyd walked in as the 9th seed. His opponent, Andre Welge, a virtually unknown German qualifier. On paper, this was supposed to be a routine win. And at first, it looked exactly like that. Lloyd came out firing, took the first set 3-0, then quickly went up 2-0 in the second. It felt over. But darts doesn't care about paper predictions. One missed double turned into 2, then 3. And before anyone could blink, Welge had stormed back, winning 6 legs in a row, sweeping both the third and fourth sets. Suddenly, Lloyd's lead was gone, and so was his composure. Mid-match, after opening a leg with a rough 55, Lloyd lost it. He stepped forward and without warning punched the dartboard. Not a light tap. A full-on jab that made the board visibly shake on camera. You could hear the gasp ripple through the crowd. And somehow, he kept playing. He even managed to win the leg and force a deciding set. But the drama didn't end there. As he walked off stage after finally closing out the match, still fueled by adrenaline and frustration, Lloyd launched his darts down toward the edge of the stage. Not a drop, but a violent throw. It was the kind of act that makes officials flinch, and the DRA didn't let it slide. The fine came down fast, £2,000 total, $1,000 for physically striking the dartboard, violating professional conduct and venue rules. Another £1,000 for recklessly throwing his darts, posing a danger to staff and setting a terrible example for fans. Lloyd didn't fight the punishment, but the moment left a lasting scar, not just on his record, but on how fans saw him. A former world #1, caught in a moment of raw emotion, punished for crossing a line few ever do. And as intense as that was, it's not even close to the most expensive fine in darts history. If Colin Lloyd's moment was shocking, Gerwyn Price's was historic. Known for his fiery persona and rugby player energy, Price wasn't just a competitor, he was a storm in darts form. He celebrated every big finish like he'd just won the World Cup. Fist pumps, chest beating, primal roars. It was electric to watch, but not everyone was thrilled. At the 2018 Grand Slam of Darts, Price made waves. First in the quarterfinals, he pulled off a massive comeback against Simon Whitlock, roaring back from 9-5 down to win 16-15. But it wasn't just the scoreline that lit up headlines. It was how he celebrated. After nearly every leg, He exploded with emotion, sometimes getting right in Whitlock's face. At one point, the referee had to warn him mid-match for his over-the-top behavior. Then came the final. Facing Gary Anderson, a two-time world champion with ice in his veins, Price didn't hold back. Every checkout, every big dart, was followed by intense celebrations that seemed to taunt rather than thrill. The tension snapped. Anderson, usually calm, shoved Price on stage in frustration. The crowd erupted. So did the complaints. The DRA received a flood of messages from fans, players, and officials accusing Price of unsportsmanlike conduct. And then came the hammer, a record-setting fine of £21,500. Here's the breakdown. £12,000 for gamesmanship and bringing the sport into disrepute during the final. £8,000 for similar behavior in the quarterfinal. £1,500 for inflammatory social media posts after the event. But that wasn't all. He was also handed a 3-month suspended ban, meaning if he crossed the line again within 6 months, he'd be pulled from competition. Price appealed, and while parts of the fine were reduced, he still ended up paying over £10,000, plus legal costs. The message from the DRA was clear. Passion is fine. But there's a line, cross it, and it doesn't matter who you are or how many titles you hold. For Price, it was a defining moment. Some fans saw him as a villain, others as a misunderstood showman. But everyone agreed. No one had ever paid a higher price for winning. And oddly enough, the man he'd clashed with that night, Gary Anderson, would face controversy of his own. But this time, it wasn't about fighting. It was about giving up. Gary Anderson is a legend, a 2-time world champion, a Premier League winner, one of the smoothest, most consistent throwers the game has ever seen. But in 2011, in front of his home crowd in Glasgow, he made a choice that nearly derailed his career. It was a Premier League match against Adrian Lewis. Anderson came out strong, laser-focused, darts flying, and he quickly took a 3-0 lead. The Scottish crowd, drunk on loyalty and adrenaline, went wild. But then things turned ugly. Every time Lewis stepped to the Aki, he was booed, jeered. At one point, someone hurled a cup of beer onto the stage. Coins followed. It wasn't just disrespectful, it was chaos. And that's when Anderson did something no one expected. He stopped fighting. After the match, which he went on to lose 8-3 after dropping 8 legs in a row, Anderson told the BBC, "I didn't want to win like that. I couldn't concentrate. I was embarrassed for the sport." His words were raw, honest, admirable even, but also dangerous. Because that quote sounded a lot like a confession. And in professional sports, deliberately losing a match, even for ethical reasons, sets off alarm bells. The reaction was swift. Fans were divided. Some praised his sportsmanship, others accused him of match-fixing. The DRA stepped in, not to punish him for the loss itself, but for saying something that could damage the sport's integrity. The result? A £3,000 fine for making public comments that cast doubt on the fairness of competition. Anderson clarified that he didn't throw the match. He just mentally checked out. The PDC backed him, but the damage was done. Even when your intentions are noble, perception matters. In darts, even honesty can cost you. And as you'll see in the next story, when you mix honesty with ego, alcohol, and a live mic, it gets messy fast. Nathan Richards wasn't a star. He wasn't even ranked. No titles, no trophies. Just a fiery underdog with a big mouth and even bigger confidence. Known on the scene as Ginger Army, Richards was working full-time in an Amazon warehouse while chasing his darts dream on the side. Q School 2020 was supposed to be his breakout. It was his 5th attempt at earning a PDC Tour card. Up to that point, he'd played 4 years and lost every single match. But this time, something felt different. Before the first round even began, Richards marched up to his opponent and said, "I've already booked your taxi home." Ballsy? Absolutely. Backed up? Somehow? Yes. Despite averaging just 60.6, a number most pros would be ashamed of, Richards managed a 5-0 whitewash, dominating his stunned opponent, and he let everyone know it. As soon as the final dart landed, he shouted, "5-0!" loud enough to echo across the venue. Then he yelled it again, and again. The energy was insane, fans were divided, some loved it, others cringed. Then came the now infamous post-match interview. Still buzzing, possibly a little drunk, Richards grinned into the mic and declared, "This is the year I've had 5 Sambucas and I'm getting my tour card." Confidence? Off the charts. Professionalism? Not quite. The Darts Regulation Authority was watching, and they weren't amused. Richards was slapped with a $400 fine for disruptive conduct and unprofessional behavior, including his comments, his repeated screaming, and his in-your-face antics. But it didn't stop there. In round 2, he lost 5-2. And things spiraled even further. According to tournament officials, Richards continued to act inappropriately off-stage, leading to another £600 fine and a short-term suspension from Q School altogether. In the end, it wasn't his skill that got him booted. It was his mouth, and his journey from warehouse worker to darts hopeful didn't crash because of ability. It crashed because of ego, alcohol, and a total lack of control. And yet, even he didn't make the biggest scene at Q School in recent memory. Because up next, we're diving into a shove, a suspension, and a £3,000 fine that stunned the sport. By 2018, Adrian Lewis was no stranger to pressure. A two-time world champion with a fiery edge, he'd built a career on intensity. But at a UK Open qualifier in Wigan, that intensity crossed the line, and it cost him more than just a match. And Lewis was playing Spanish newcomer Jose Justicia, and the match was tense from the start. You could see Lewis was irritated, frustrated. Each throw came with more body language, more muttering under his breath. And then it happened. After a missed shot and a brief exchange of words, Lewis stormed across the stage and shoved Justicia directly in the chest. The crowd gasped. Officials rushed in. What should have been a forgettable qualifying match had turned into full-blown chaos. Justicia stood his ground. No retaliation, no theatrics. But the damage had been done. Within hours, the PDC suspended Lewis pending investigation. Cameras had caught everything. The footage went viral. Darts forums lit up. Was this a one-time outburst or something deeper? Lewis issued a public apology, admitting he lost his cool. He claimed he felt provoked, that Justicia had been distracting him mid-throw, but ultimately, he took responsibility. The DRA didn't go lightly. He was hit with a $3,000 fine for bringing the sport into disrepute. There was no leniency, no suspended sentence, just a firm message. Physical contact on the ouch is never acceptable, no matter who you are or how high you've climbed in the rankings. For Lewis, it was a humbling moment. For the sport, it was another reminder that discipline isn't optional. Even seasoned champions are held accountable when the emotion boils over. And if you think a shove on stage was out of line, wait until you hear about what happened when a player flipped off an entire crowd and then bragged about the fine. That's next. Some fines are quiet, private, settled behind closed doors. Scott Williams's wasn't one of those. At the 2025 German Darts Grand Prix, Williams, known for his swagger and sharp personality, walked into Munich ready to compete. But what he didn't expect was a relentlessly hostile crowd. Booing, heckling, distractions every time he stepped up to throw. At first, he tried to ignore it. Then he responded. After one especially intense leg against Josh Rock, Williams turned toward the crowd and raised his middle finger, clear, deliberate, and caught clean on the live broadcast. The reaction was instant. Gasps from fans. Backlash online, clips going viral within minutes. And Williams, he owned it. Later, during a charity live stream with Target Darts, he laughed about it. He called it a heat-of-the-moment move and joked that it had cost him a full bag of sand. That's £1,000 in UK slang. Then he doubled down, saying, just because the German crowd were all arseholes. The Darts Regulation Authority didn't find it funny. He was fined £1,000 for offensive conduct toward the audience, a clear violation of the sport's code of conduct. It was his biggest fine to date, and though it didn't come with a suspension, it added another name to the growing list of players who let emotion take over. But for many fans, it was the perfect storm of darts drama. One finger, one fine, and one unforgettable moment. And that brings us to a bigger question, not just about fines, but about the hidden tension under this seemingly calm sport. Because as you've seen, the calmest games often hide the most explosive pressure. It's easy to look at these moments and laugh, punching boards, throwing darts, middle fingers in front of thousands. But if you zoom in just a little closer, what you're seeing isn't just chaos, it's pressure. Because darts isn't just about numbers on a scoreboard, it's about precision under fire, live crowds screaming, rankings on the line, and careers that can change with a single missed double. And when you combine all of that with adrenaline, ego, and the crushing fear of failure, even the calmest players can snap. That's why the Darts Regulation Authority doesn't mess around. Their fines aren't just about punishing bad behavior. They're about protecting the image of a sport that thrives on focus and discipline. One bad moment on stage can ripple across headlines, social media, and sponsorship deals, and the DRA knows it. And let's not forget, most of these players aren't millionaires. A few £1,000s might not sound like much in football or boxing, but in darts, it can be career-changing. It can mean the difference between making the tour and losing your spot entirely. But what's most fascinating isn't just the fines. It's what they reveal about the people behind the hockey. Because beneath every controlled throw is a storm waiting to break. And sometimes when it does, it's unforgettable. So what do all these stories have in common? From the legends like Gary Anderson and Gerwyn Price, to wildcards like Ginger Army and Scott Williams, they all show one thing. Darts isn't just about skill, it's about composure. And when that composure cracks even for a second, the fallout can be brutal. Whether it's a punch to the dartboard, a public shove, a slip of the tongue, or a gesture that crosses the line, the DRA is always watching, and their message is loud and clear. No one is above the game. But here's the thing. These moments aren't just fines on paper. They're windows into the mental war behind every throw. They show us the raw pressure, the ego, the fear, and sometimes the breaking point. And that's why they're unforgettable. So now we want to hear from you. Which fine shocked you the most? Do you think the DRA goes too far or not far enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you love insane moments like these, where calm sports erupt into full-blown chaos, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and get ready for the next story. Because what happened in these matches? It's just the beginning. See you in the next one.